the first thing I wanted to go over in this video was the different classes that you could choose. Alright, we're going to be starting a brand new class, and I'm going to be going through a bunch of the different steps for you to get ahead very quickly. So out of the two servers, try starting in Visaria and Sarah instead of Luminous, because there are going to be more people who are knowledgeable on the game. Although if you wanted to have like a separate type of thing for you to kind of go into with this guide, then you'll be like, oh, I'm the smartest person here. So whichever behooves you. So we're gonna go through the different classes, the benefits and the weaknesses. So first we have Crusader. You can be either human or Impen. Impen don't really have a gender, so you can kind of conform them to whatever you want. The Crusader is supposed to be more of like a tank. We'll be able to go into each individual class a little bit later, but for the most part, the shield helps you mitigate damage. And then they do have a couple combos that they are able to go through to be able to deal some damage. All classes do have some DPS, but Crusader has been pretty consistent for me, and they also excel at their mobility, like dodges, ways to get out of taking damage, and they also have a lot of CC effects, so crowd control. They have ways to stun their enemies and allow for the party or themselves to be able to deal some more damage. Berserker's more like the straight DPS group. They are only the Varg, which are like a wolf-like thing. You can make them look like a bat too if you really want to. But yeah, so they have their big axe. They're really good at dealing a lot of damage to a bunch of different enemies at one time. They also have a Berserk mode where they get to deal extra damage. So this is just a class that excels at damage dealing. So if you're more of that kind of category, then that's the thing. I have noticed that they're a little bit weaker on the dodge. A lot of the abilities kind of don't allow you to dodge as often, but I mean, you get to be a huge wolf character dealing massive damage, so that's also a thing. Ranger can only be elf, and what they're really good at is, I think, PvP and 1v1 scenarios. They are horrible at crowd control, but in some of the later abilities that they get for like blessing, they have the ability to reduce the defense of a character by 25%, and then sometimes that could be even more later on in the game. But being able to get that defense down means that some of your dungeon runs and your boss battles are going to be a lot easier. I found that, you know, 2 archers in a party of 5 is one of the fastest way to do dungeons. So this one I think is my preferred DPS class to have on my team, being a Crusader main, and I think their role is actually pretty crucial. But you probably don't want more than 2, because you get Mage. Mage can be human and elf, so you can have a bunch of different choices there. And they are, again, another DPS class. They have a little bit different of a way of a playstyle. They actually have an ability that allows them to get their crit rate up to 100%. So you'll be dealing your total bonus damage. So for this character, you want to focus on crit damage dealt, not your crit rate. But then that just means that you're going to be doing a lot more damage per hit, especially with some of your spells like Meteor, which we are level 31, and I think the mage that was in my team was like level 32. And then on our level 30 dungeon raid, they were able to do like 42,000 damage, which is huge because at the start you're doing like 50, 60 damage. They also have these things that are like crystals that fill up, and you can also gain extra benefits per attack with that. The other thing that they get later on that's also beneficial is like a fade. So they get to dodge and fade. There's also a part where you start gaining life for that fade. So potentially this is also a very good DPS class. But this is just straight DPS. It doesn't have any effect on the enemy bosses. So I almost always want one. But I'm not sure if I want two yet. Also need to play around with that. But yeah, we can get on party formations a little bit later. Priest! You have Impin and Human. Alright. Priest, I have found to be the best Starseed Saver in the game. You allow yourself to be able to heal, and so the only character that's allowed to heal. And what that means is that you don't have to spend money on potions, because regen effects in this game are like non-existent. There are some ways to gain life as you do things, but for the most part, Priest is just the only one to get the healing, and they get the healing a little bit later on in one of the blessings, the second one, and usually you can get it. I want to say within like the first 30 minutes of the game. You just have to like power through it, and once you get that, then it's a lot better. Their secondary attack is also more of like a up to 3 character AoE damage. So he's or she's also able to do like the big open areas and gain XP a little bit faster that way. Because if you put a hit out on target and then it dies, you do gain the experience for it. Shared experience. So those are the classes. If you wanted to try to put them in an even more basic role, we have tank, DPS, and then healer. Crusader and Priest are more of the support classes, right? The Ranger could be like the next one in the support because they do allow for a lot of damage acceleration in boss battles, and then Berserker and Mage are more just straight DPS. So ranking them, alright? If you're like, alright, I don't care about my playstyle, I just want to know which goddamn character do I choose? Which one is going to be the best for me? After playing Crusader for about 31 levels, I played Berserker for about 6. Mage, I played up to level 6. Ranger played up to 6. And then ended up deleting my Mage, and I made a new one because I wanted to play VV Black Mage, so I got that name from Final Fantasy. And the Priest is also pretty good. So let's just rank them. So number 5, my choice for number 5. If you're taking in consideration with player versus environment, PvE, and player versus player, we'll do those two separate, okay? So for number 5 in the PvP category, player versus player, I would probably have to choose Mage as number 5. There's not a ton of evasion, and there is a lot of damage. You can one-hit KO somebody, But I feel like the other classes are going to be a little bit better for what you want in this. And it's kind of close for me, because the next one on the list is Crusader at number 4. I feel like the Crusader is just not that good in PvP, but if you are in like a designated party and you do have communication, the CC that the Crusader provides should be good enough to be able to knock them off balance, and then for you to be even able to take them out. Next on the list is going to be Priest, just because it does have the heal, which means that you don't need to be using potion after potion after potion in PvP. I feel like this one's pretty important. But again, you don't want too many of them because the DPS is lacking and there's low mobility. Next would be the Ranger, because you are able to kite someone or have them follow you around while you're able to do that damage, and there are a few abilities that do allow you to jump away or jump up in the air to miss some damage. And I have lost a few times in 1v1 scenarios as a Crusader. It's just kind of hard to pin them down and then kill them. And then number 1 is Berserker, because Berserker be raging, right? He just does a ton of damage. He also has some CC abilities, but for the most part, it's just too much damage too quickly. And I feel like he's probably the best pick for a PvP character. Now, let's move on to PvE. So PvE, number 5 is Ranger. I did say that the Ranger's probably the best against bosses, but if it's PvE, you're probably going to be going around the map trying to kill as many mobs as you can, as fast as you can, which means that the Ranger is horrible. It's the worst character, but I mean, marginally the worst character. I still feel like it's a very viable pick if you are going to be playing this game, especially for dungeon runs, because it is so crucial. But as far as like soloing and stuff, it's going to be kind of hard to do all that. So next up we have Berserker. He does have a lot of area effects at number 4, so you can do the PvE thing pretty well, but I just don't think that he's better than the other options, especially since he doesn't really have a whole lot of utility to him. The rage and the extra damage boosts are good. I have seen a lot of high-level good Berserkers. But yeah, it's more of like, let's kill as many things as possible, as quick as possible. Then next up, we're gonna go Mage for number 3. Mage is just one of the solid picks. It has a bunch of AoE effects, and then Meteor can even, wipe out a huge group of enemies in one hit. So, like Crusader could jump in, stun them, and then Mage finishes them off. I've done that a lot, especially when you're trying to pull or gather up a bunch of enemies at one time. So that's where she's going to go. Next, we are going to go with number 2 as the Crusader. Yes, my main. Number 2. We're not picking favorites here. Crusader's actually pretty sweet. The guard ability allows you to stop a lot of damage that could and would potentially kill you, especially against the Bone Dragon. And it can keep you in fights that you have no business being in. Crusader, I think, is also one of the most popular classes in the game, which means that there's going to be a lot of support for them. There's going to be a lot of extra gear. But there are multiple abilities that hit multiple enemies at one time. The stun effects are very, very good because it allows you to deal extra damage while they can't attack you. And being the most mobile character, with his dodges and stuff, his jumps, it it's hard for me to think of him anything less than number 2. And then finally, the best character is probably Priest. This consideration is that his left trigger hits multiple things at one time, which means that you're dealing more damage over time. He doesn't have a whole lot of mobility, or it doesn't have a lot of mobility. But the healing effect as well is just huge, right? The ability to not need potions is just insane. And yeah, I've been fighting a lot between Priest and Crusader as number 1 and 2. But I think if you want the best character for PvE, this one's going to be it, because you can solo until you can find a party that can utilize your skills the best. Alright, so that's the entire thing there. Those are the classes. So yeah, definitely stay tuned. I'm going to be posting a lot more videos on which characters' abilities do what, the classes and stuff. But I'm also going to be putting up some guides for levels and stuff. So definitely check those out. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. I am on Twitter at bro_Cobra. You found me on YouTube, so thank you. Subscribe. Awesome. And yeah, where else am I at? Twitch. Twitch.tg/bro_Cobra. Check me out. I do stream a lot now. We'll get back to you guys later. Thanks for watching. And like always, go in peace, brah.